Then the fourth example. So the way the story goes, is his former teacher, Mr. Okafor. He comes to an arrangement with his mother where Eze lives with him and works for him, and he's able to pay for his school fees. And with that, Eze is able to continue his education. So now they're moving to Eze, and his rest of his classmates are moving to a new school, and they're going to be with a new teacher. Basically, standard 3 and above, they have to move to a new school. And when they meet their new teacher, there's a statement in the book that reads, they're introduced to their new teacher, which is Mr. Rappo. And he says, Mr. Rappo was a tall, handsome young man of athletic build. He was always smiling, and the new pupils prayed his heart will be as kind as his face. I mean, that's the statement. If you read that statement in the book, you might be like, okay, I'm sure some of you are already wondering here, Mommy, so what's the deal with that sentence? Okay, so I'll tell you. It rubs off the wrong way because it is so indicative of a culture that has been perpetuated in terms of the enterprise we built around favor and how people are not held accountable. I mean, he's a teacher doing his job. In doing his job, he should. Nobody has to be scared. If a teacher is doing his job the right way, nobody has to be scared on what the consequences will look like. But again, this is so telling about the society we're in, where we put a lot on favor. We are so dependent on favor. We pray for favor with everything. We pray for favor to pass our exams, pray for favor to get a job, to get an interview. And if you think, there's really nothing wrong with prayer, but the problem with that system is that the emphasis we put on getting favor we elevate favor to such an extent that we neglect to learn about the systems that bring about the merit-based systems that bring about success in those arenas. So you find people that would actually dedicate more time to praying than to studying for the exam, or actually dedicate more time to looking for favor, sometimes not even praying, looking for favor, than learning what it would take to succeed in a job interview. And on and on and on. And you see that this value system has bred such a lack of accountability in people with power. And this, in fact, this is examples I encountered during my NYSC, where you're meeting government officials that are expected to give you approval to get so that you can get things done. And they say things like, pray that God will touch my heart. Or lecturers that say, pray that God will touch my heart so I can give you a pass grade. And that's just weird on several dimensions, where when you have power, you believe your power gives you a godlike nature where people now have to beg for favor instead of you just doing your job, doing the competent job and making the decisions based on a merit-based framework. But people now have to pray. So it also robs human beings of accountability, and we lose what actual competency is supposed to look like because we're so focused on getting favor. It doesn't even matter whether that person does the job right at the end of the day. So long they give us the favor, we're happy, we're so ecstatic and we're joyful. But in seeking for favor, we put competency was left aside and a system of accountability was left aside. I think I've said enough about this one. So over to the next one. The next one we're still on Mr. Rappo and we're in Mr. Rappo's class. And we get a part in the book where it goes like this. I'll read it out. During an arithmetic lesson one Monday morning, Mr. Rappo had asked Ono, the biggest boy in the class, to recite his tables. He could not. Eze was asked to recite them. And when he did so successfully, that is Eze, was asked to give Ono a hard knock on the head. Again, That's another passage, another problematic example that speaks to our value system, and you wonder how. Of course, we can debate the corporal punishments, but that's not the focus. That's not what I want to highlight. What I want to highlight is the fact that I'm sure without reading the rest of the story, you can imagine how Izzy and Ono's relationship became after that incident. And these were supposed to be two classmates. The big question we're asking here is, why was Izzy involved in Ono's failure? Why was Izzy made the enemy? Izzy was just a classmate, just like Ono. But we create the systems where we celebrate the Lone Stars. Successes are supposed to be celebrated, but we have an approach to celebrating successes that shames everybody else involved. We like the Lone Star, we like the shining star success, and everyone else that is up here and hasn't made it like them be damned. We're like, what are you doing with your life? And you see this reflected in different ways when we are selected. It's so hard, it's almost really hard to celebrate success in any quarter of Nigerian life without seeing someone trying to put down the other contemporaries of the person being celebrated. And it's become such an irritating habit because you end up creating unnecessary enemies of people that should be working together. Of course, this is not to say that this is a peculiar to Nigeria example, but the effect of this approach, this way of thinking and way of life is so much more pronounced in the Nigerian environment because you see a lot of wasted opportunities. The final example is they finally get Izzy's luck finally changes. There's a soldier who comes back from the Second World War, and he's been outside the country, he's seen how things work, he's seen the benefits of education, and he comes back and he finds that the one child in that hamlet that could be making progress in education and actually knows how to read and write is being held back because of lack of funds. And he goes as a soldier. Of course, he has authority, and he has clout, he has respect. Being a soldier, had fought in a war and come back, so people listen to him, and he made them feel ashamed for holding Izzy's education back, and he indicated that that this was going to set the hamlet back. The hamlet was known for being first among his equals, but they were obviously taking the back seats in the area of education, and he made it clear that if they were not careful, they were going to be overtaken by the other hamlets. So that sets them in motion, and they finally ended up setting up a fund, and from that fund they were able to send Izzy to secondary school. So the next and the last part that really highlights our faulty value system is the incidents that happens while Izzy is on his way to secondary school. So the secondary school was situated in Onitsha, the big city, and the journey from Ohio to Onitsha required that Izzy had to take a lorry. So he boarded a lorry that this is how the story puts it. The lorry was an old one. Its green paint was faded and scratched. Its joints were very loose, such that as it moved on the road, it rattled and groaned ceaselessly. The tires were patched here and there. It looked a terrible sight. Yet in front of it, it bore an inscription, "Safe Journey Number 1," in letters 1 foot high. And the story is somewhat predictable from here. So obviously, they get into this faulty vehicle. This vehicle with several faults. The driver tries to push his luck to move as fast as possible, but eventually the lorry gets into an accident, and a couple of people die. A couple of people, and many others are injured. So this particular story highlights yet one more thing, and this story in and of itself, without having to find its alternate versions or its examples in society, is all too common. We have too many incidences of road crashes taking countless and snatching people in the peak of their lives. These accidents were traced to the fact that the lorries or the vehicles were not roadworthy. They had no businesses being on the road. So the story in itself is all too common. But there's several dimensions of the story that highlight what's faulty about value system. In fact, you really don't know where to start from. Is it the short-termism that the lorry driver kept on driving that vehicle because he wanted to make a living. He wanted to make a living. So is it that mentality that places profit over human life? Or is it just that concern with the short-term gain and that makes you ignore everything else? Or a third dimension is just the maintenance culture and our habit of managing things. Let's manage it. A culture of patching things and patching things together, patching it together until you finally can't take it anymore and it gives way. So you see three things at play: lack of value of human life, elevation of profits over anything else, short-term gains over anything else, and the culture of low maintenance, culture of poor maintenance. And these three things come together and they almost rob Eze of the opportunity to go to secondary school. But luckily for Eze, he wasn't among the dead. He sustained a couple of injuries that landed him in the hospital, and he almost missed the deadline to make school. But the final statement of the book ends on a happy note that he was glad that he was able to heal in good time and make it in time for school. And that's my expose on the 6 ways that Eze Goes to School showcases what's wrong with the value system in Nigeria. If we have an expose that focuses on so many wrong things, and then you want to ask what was right that was showcased in the book, what was right about the value system that was showcased in the book, I would say that I think there was at least one really good thing about our value system that was showcased in the book, which was the sense of community. It was once Wilberforce, the soldier that was in the army that made the case for education in Ohia Hamlets. Once he was able to show the community the gains they could get by mobilizing, by funding and getting their children into school, how easy it was to rally them around and get them involved in a worthy cause. So I think that sense of community and how we're able to, and something else that was really heartwarming about that whole initiative was that this fund not only taxed the members of the community, the Ohia Hamlets, they also sent letters to the sons of the soil, the ones that had left Ohia Hamlet and had gone into the cities, into Onitsha, Lagos, and other big cities. They also sent letters to those people, and those people responded, and they contributed to the cause. But just the fact that, so I think what I liked about that part of the story was how we're able to rally together as a community. And once we get a letter from our base community or our village that we need to come together as sons of the soil or daughters of the soil to get this cause up and running, we respond. We always get good response rates from those kind of community rallying initiatives. And I think that's one thing that is good about the Nigerian value system, and I think that cuts across every part of the Nigerian values, every part of Nigerian society. So yeah, that's it. Really happy I finished this. It took me about 40 minutes. My voice is cracked. I hope the sound quality is good. But yeah, there it is. So thank you for watching. Bye-bye.